So Shawna, I think you have a very interesting and unique path into instructional design. Please tell our audience a little bit about how you got into instructional design and how you got to where you are now.
I think I was forced into instructional design because when I started teaching in 1988, the school that I taught at, the principal threw out the textbooks and said, you got to do something better than this. You got to read stories and novels, and you've got to make it thematic. Thematic was the word. And then she started to say, let's learn about how your brain works. What colors work in your classroom? So she threw out tradition when I began. So I had no idea how not to be an instructional designer
Mm,
because I had to be able to make a thematic classroom, and I had to be able to make some judgment calls on how to get student accomplishments with raw material,
mm,
right? No textbook, no things like that. What was interesting is that the teachers at the time that were so unique. So there was one class, one kindergarten, one first grade, one second grade, one third grade, and every class was phenomenally done. The third grade teacher who had to learn about underwater animals actually painted her entire class ocean blue, hung whales and dolphins from the ceiling, and students lived underwater all day.
right.
What? So what that technology couldn't even do that. That was just that was amazing submersion into learning. The fourth grade teacher had to do California history. So she took four desks, put them together, put a stagecoach top on the top of them so they were in a stagecoach, and they learned through simulating moving through California in a stagecoach. Amazing. The sixth grade teacher had built a pyramid in her class out of sand and glue, and she was teaching about Egypt. And so what she did was put lots of things in there that the kids had to dig out slowly but surely through the year. Now, she didn't realize that her project would ruin the floor for the rest of the year, but it was a good idea, right? So for me, instructional design was all I knew, and computers were there and they were networked. So when I left there, I was surprised that nobody didn't do this. I
Wow.
was surprised that people didn't have a computer in the library and couldn't print out from the office to a classroom. I didn't know what it was like not to be networked. So when I actually got into instructional design, I had a good foundation because that's all I knew. Um, I think Teachers College was transforming for me. I think Robbie McClintock was transforming for me because he looked at me sometimes and said, really? Really? Do you really have to be a gatekeeper to that knowledge? Do you really have to, do you really want to put a quota on printing? Really? Can't you just talk to people and say, if you need it, you need it. If you don't, you don't. I didn't know how to give my power away. I didn't know how to lead without structure. And so I think the best thing was TC teaching me that. Like, you can still lead and design and formulate minds and put in new energy, but you don't have to be power hungry. You
Mm.
can just be engaging and thoughtful and allow students to grow, and they'll do it naturally. And so that was my path, and I still do it today. I mean, today as a dean, I still say, how are we going to do that? And
Right.
someone will come up with a beautiful idea, and I say, okay, let's try it. But the key to success in instructional design is the come through. So if somebody comes to you as an instructional designer and you can't come back with something better for them, you've lost them. If you come back and you do a little something right, they'll stay with you forever, and they'll just keep coming to you and asking you, even if you don't have all the answers, they trust you. So it's sort of like your tax man, right? You go to your tax man the first year, and if he gives you a refund, you're like, I'll stay with you. And then in the third year, when you have to pay, you're okay because you know that was the right answer, and next year you'll do something different. So as instructional designers, and I'm going to say this real, you can't be bullshitters. You can't just throw a bunch of videos and a bunch of PD and a bunch of, templates at people, because once you lose them, they'll never come back to you for anything. And who is affected is those 200 students in their class.
Can I add something to that? You can't put them out there. Can't let them hang out there also. If you're going to
Yes.
work with them, you got to see it through. And you can't just come up with a theoretical big framework,
Yes, yes,
$5 framework, and then let them do it and walk away. You got to see it through. Because I think, as you know, the last thing a teacher wants is the thing that you help build to not work in their classroom and implode while they're teaching. It's a nightmare. You have to be there. You have to stick it out with those teachers.
you do. And you might have to show up on the first day they use it. You know,
Yeah.
I always wonder when I watch these car shows where they remake a car, like they rip it down and put a new Hemi engine in it, and then they sell it. I always wonder what happens if it breaks after that, because somebody has designed it as a one-off. So can someone else fix it? Can someone else come around? Do I have a $50,000 car that I can't drive? And that's what happens with instructional design. We have $50,000 designs and we can't drive them, and the person's gone. So I think we have a lot to do. I think as instructional designers, we have to learn how to teach outside the box.
No, that's a really insightful example. We really can't create things for teachers that they can't use when
Yes,
it's out there. You're
yes.
absolutely right.
And we do it a lot. We
Yeah.
go, hey, here's the template, do this. And people are afraid to say, I don't understand. I don't know what you've done. They'll just not use it anymore and go back.